My name is Jelena Rnjak-Kovacina. I am an associate professor and a research fellow in the Graduate School of Biomedical Engineering at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. I studied molecular biology and biochemistry at the University of Sydney, and over time I shifted my interest and my focus towards biomedical engineering. I got interested in this as part of my honours year when I did my first research project in the School of Molecular Biology. I was choosing between several projects, the more classic structural biochemistry projects that I studied, and a project that was a little bit different for the school, where we were applying these structural biochemistry ideas towards making new biomaterials for treating various diseases, in my case, burns injuries. After I did that project, I was really interested in this idea of more applied translational research and biomedical engineering, and I shifted my career towards that. I completed a PhD in this area at the University of Sydney, and then I moved to Boston, to Tufts University, to work on silk-based biomaterials for the treatment of cardiovascular disease. This is really where I got interested and committed to using natural materials and natural polymers for the treatment of cardiovascular disease. And I came back in 2014 to the University of New South Wales, where I've been an academic and a researcher ever since. My research is in designing new biomaterials or materials that are designed to interface with our bodies for the treatment of cardiovascular disease. This means we make materials aimed at vascular grafts for the treatment of coronary artery disease and heart valve leaflets for heart valve disease, as well as wound dressings for complex skin wounds. My research is both fundamental and applied in that we study how biomaterial properties affect interactions with our body. In other words, how cells will actually interact with those materials when they're implanted. Will it be a positive or a negative response, a functional or a non-functional response? And then designing more functional materials as those medical devices. My favorite biomaterial is silk, which is isolated from the silkworms or the cocoons of silkworms. So we take the cocoons, we process them in such a way that we get a pure solution of the silk protein, and from that solution we can make a whole range of different material formats. We can make fibrous wound dressings, we can make tubular vascular grafts, we can make very thin leaflets that mimic the native structure of the heart valve leaflets. So silk is incredibly processable, it is biodegradable, which means that in the body, the expectation is we will implant the new material, the body will recognize it as a positive response, and will remodel and degrade that material over time, replacing it with its own functional tissue. So in other words, we're replacing the disease tissue with functional tissue, which is getting stimulated by the materials we're implanting. I've always been a curious person. My mom always jokes that as a kid I would ask hundreds of questions a day, and so I think it made sense that I become a researcher. But more specifically, the research that I do now is in helping treat cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease kills one person every 12 minutes in Australia, and it's a huge healthcare problem both in Australia and globally. And so it is nice to think that the research that we do and the knowledge that we contribute might one day actually contribute to the treatment options for patients suffering from cardiovascular disease, and in particular for our aging population. I have two small kids, which leaves very little time for hobbies, but I am an avid reader, or these days a listener of audiobooks and podcasts, and we spend a lot of time at the beach. That is definitely my happy place.